I'm Melissa, and this is Paul. We've lived in Tacoma since 2000. I think we just decided 2010. So I grew up in Westchester County, New York, Chappaqua, New York. And I kind of moved around. I went to school in Western Massachusetts, moved to Boston, and then eventually got here via Houston, San Francisco, where we met in San Francisco, and then up here. But I'm definitely, the West Coast is where I want to be. In truth, we met at a bar inside the club, but we met on a bar stool.
Happy hour at the rowing swimming club, yeah.
At the ATM machine at the entrance, and Paul just walked in and said, "Oh, your car's no good here," and kept walking. And I don't know, somehow that won my heart. We're getting into the time of year where I will get up to meet Allison at Ruston Way and get in before, while it's still dark. And we swim while the sun rises. We usually end up talking for 10 minutes, putting it off, because I don't think we ever really want to get in somehow. I've had lots of times where we've shown up and I've wanted to skip, but that's the helpful thing about having the other person there. But I think it's important to just get right in. My face gets cold, my hands, in the winter, my hands start to lose function when I'm swimming, and your fingers drag, you call it the claw, your fingers just get sort of paralyzed and you're swimming like this. It's fun. So I just feel like I'm in this other world, like I'm literally swimming in an aquarium or someplace I'm not supposed to be. So I always feel like I'm not allowed to be in there. And that's something I feel more at Ruston. It sort of feels like I'm this renegade, getting in for the first time there. I just felt like the cops are gonna come. A cold, warm sandwich feeling in my stomach that I can't quite describe, but it just feels good. It's like a physical warmth, glowing thing that I feel that lasts most of a day. It's worth it. But I think one of the things that's best about it is it's different every time. I think it's just sort of a habit, a ritual, a kind of thing that I feel like I'm missing something, like a weekend that I don't swim in the open water. I feel like I'm kind of feel off, or I feel like I've just missed an adventure. Swimming in cold water is a completely different sport. Sometimes it makes me a little emotionally fragile when I'm that cold. I think I'm gonna cry or something, and I think it's just all must be some weird bodily response to near danger or actual danger. I love it. I've never been able to describe perfectly how much it feels like I'm on top of something, which I don't feel in a pool. I think water is super cool. I mean, I love the idea that I can swim in the water and move around the way I can move around in the water. But in a pool, it's pretty boring. But having the sense of space below me and the clarity of water here, because that's something that's also different from where I've swum before. It is crystal clear. Absolutely, it takes my mind off work. It takes my mind off other things. I remember when Paula was diagnosed, I think it was that weekend I came out here and I swam by myself. I don't know, it's one of those places where I can either think a lot about something or I can not think about something. But my mind doesn't flip back and forth on all the stresses of my life as much as it does everywhere else that I am. So I think it's a good sort of a place to go in my head and physically.
February of 15, I was diagnosed with colon cancer. And so that's been really our main focus over the last 3+ years now. I'm not always very capable, physically capable, so it's been hard in terms of things like keeping up the cycling or being able to ride my motorcycle, things like that. I didn't have a license before I was diagnosed, and once I was diagnosed, I got a license and bought a motorcycle, much to my mother's displeasure. And I've enjoyed that as much as I can during the treatment process. First time that I physically noticed something myself. I had, it was in the fall of 14, and I had rowed in a regatta in San Francisco. And when we were finished, I said to a friend that I just felt like our last quarter mile wasn't very strong, and I wasn't getting enough out of what I was putting into it. I wasn't tired necessarily, but I felt like I could have done more, but I didn't feel like I was holding back, but I just felt that there was a wet blanket on it. And that was kind of the first time, and that was 3 months away from the diagnosis, I guess. So things moved pretty quickly after that.
But it's just interesting to see what you can become so close to that you don't notice. Or things that we sort of think, that's weird, you don't like beer anymore. Just suddenly lost his ability to drink or interest in drinking. I'm with Paul every day. It just came on so slowly that I didn't really notice. And it's only when you look back and you think, oh my gosh, like that's a lot of weight loss and tremendous changes in appetite.
Stage 4 diagnosis, I think, is typically a 2 to 5 year survival rate with full treatment. And cancer isn't a yes or no thing. There's a lot of wells and maybes. I try not to put too many labels on it, and or try to define it too precisely, and just keep plugging on.
The response from friends when Paul first got sick, and the amount of people wanting to come over and visit or help us with yard work, that's been great. It's been harder more recently when Paul hasn't been as up for seeing people. I personally feel like I feel much more like a hermit lately, and I just want to be in my house, which is hard because I think what we need is also to see people. But they're just people love Paul. People like me more because of Paul, I think.
It's hard to know how I feel about things in the sense that I think it changes pretty regularly. I don't know that I have really a concrete base that I'm working from. Being grateful for the opportunities I've had, and certainly trying not to focus on my woe so much. When you see a kid get towed out in a wagon, so he can have some sunshine before he dies. It's harder to worry about yourself when you see something like that, and you see that on a pretty regular basis in this scenario. So you find yourself thinking about a lot of other folks too. I mean, that's a pretty easy game to play, to look back and wish you'd have done things differently. And at the end of the day, there's some element of that, but I think I've done a pretty good job of not picking that apart in my head all the time.
I kind of hate this word, because what does it mean? Is you're so strong, you're being so strong about this. You're both being so strong about being able to, talk about things, but I don't know, it feels like it's just sort of normal to think about it, normal to talk about it in practical terms.
At the end of the day, it's not going to change anything to get myself all stressed out over what I could or couldn't have done, or should or shouldn't have done. People have been great and been open and brought their piece of it to me. I did have a good chuckle once. We were at the Red Hot, and Melissa was enjoying an IPA, and I tasted that, and it's a little bit too big for me, so I was enjoying a Diet Coke, and the woman seated next to me at the common table leaned over and told me that that'll give you cancer. And I thought, well, maybe so, but
we look back and he should have been like, got it.
Yeah, the irony being that alcohol actually is linked to cancer. Decided not to say anything back and smiled.
It's just like, it's a normal topic of conversation for us, and I think some of the more interesting conversations come out of just being like, hey, how are you feeling? What's going on? Instead of, how are you doing? We were raised not to really talk about what's going on with you, but I've always been a sharer, and I find that like some of the coolest conversations come out of talking about what's going on with you, and you learn what's going on with someone else that they might not have shared with you, and it just becomes more intimate. The friendships that have really been strengthened during this are, a lot of times because of that, and that ability to carry on a conversation and not be weirded out by it. I don't know, people are generous here. I mean, just I think in general in Tacoma, or maybe it's Washington, it's just a different kind of place than San Francisco was.
The only advice my mother gave me when I went to college was to remind me, or to implore me to say hi to everybody. You never know who they're going to turn into or be, or how they're going to fit into your life at some point down the road, whether it's a class or beyond. So I've tried to maintain some of that going forward, and I think that certainly applied to the neighborhood here.
Mm-hmm.
And people were quite receptive and did the same to us, so it worked out.
All out of life advice, but always have frozen balls of cookie dough in your freezer.
Life advice, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Play hard.
Yeah. Say hi. Jump in. You'll get over the cold.